Let's turn your BigShock from this into this. Here we go. Hello friends, hello YouTube, how are you guys doing? Rainbow here with another Nerf mod tutorial build guide video. Woohoo! Today we're going to talk about the Traveller Kit and the installation of the Traveller Kit. So I'm going to be covering all the modifications needed to be done to the BigShock, as well as all the things you need to know about installing one of my Traveller Kits. As many of you have already purchased the kits and they're just about hitting their destination, I figured it's about time I get this video out. If you want to get your hands on a Traveller Kit, link to my shops in the description. Thanks. If you don't know what the Traveller is, the Traveller essentially transforms your BigShock from a single-shot mega BigShock pistol into an inline clip pistol that holds up to 6 short darts or 3 elite darts, depending on the variant you choose. I've made an entire video covering this mod and how we developed it and all the things you need to know. I'm going to link this video in the description as well. So I'm not going to be talking about what it does, I'm just going to be talking about how you build it. So as some of you will know, the Traveller Kit is actually based on this thing. This is a single shot elite dart BigShock modification kit by my friend Tim, or the Time Traveller as you know him. And this is the idea that sparked the idea of the Traveller Kit. So the Traveller Kit is based on this, and since that is the case, the modifications to the BigShock are actually identical. So it doesn't matter if you want to build this one or this one, you got to modify your Nerf BigShock in the same way. So I guess this could also count as a tutorial on how to put one of these kits together, if you have one of these or if you want to order one of these, because the modifications are going to be the same. And I'm going to point out the differences in installing the kits along the video. So it doesn't matter which one you built, you could just use this as a tutorial. So now, without any further ado, off we go to the basement, get these modifications done on the BigShock, and then come back up here and do the 3D printed parts. And I'll see you on the other side. In order to install the Traveller Kit, we need to do two things to the BigShock. Mainly, we got to cut the shell, because most of this is gone. We're only going to keep the grip section. And we are going to take the AR out of this system. So that stuff you can see in here, we're going to take this out. The tools I need to do this, and you know, there's definitely different ways of doing this. The tools I use to do this: a hammer, an old piece of aluminum pipe, a screwdriver to get the screws out, a pair of pliers, and this woodworking thing. I looked up the name before I did the video, then I forgot it. So yeah, it's for woodworking, you know, chipping off wood of things. It's fairly sharp if it's a decent tool, and I use this to break some plastic part of the AR. That won't come out otherwise. Yes, so now, and for shell cutting, I use a trusted Dremel with a cutting blade, but you'll see in a second, it's just over there. I can't take it all the way to here. So I went ahead and already took out the screws. They're right here. If you've never taken apart a BigShock, it's fairly straightforward. A bunch of screws in there. And there's one short one which goes in the back here. Not sure why it's the short one right there. Doesn't really matter, but if you wonder where the short one goes, it's right there. And depending on your model of BigShock, this right here is actually either a real screw or a fake screw. So it really depends on what model you have. And yeah, so you take this apart. Internals come right there. I'm going to put this over here, and so we focus on this. So you can see right in here, that's where the AR sits, like in the back there behind this piston, and we want to, like it sits about here, and we want to take this entire thing out. Now, what I've done with my other BigShock builds is I just sort of cut up this piece and then just sort of drilled right through, and it was all gone, which is a lot easier, it's a lot quicker, but the Traveller Kit is designed around this piece, so you can actually keep this, which means you have to work a little bit differently. And also, you know, some people said, you know, you can just leave this, which is true, you can. And so this is how I remove the AR, with hopefully keeping this intact. Depending on your model of BigShock, again, the glue in here might not be the best. So when you have your BigShock disassembled, just try and pull this off. If you can't, that's great. If you can, you have to reglue it anyways. Yes, I want to take this entire assembly out because I want to have a different angle of working that AR as well. Fairly easy. The 4 screws here are the same as shell screws, so in case if you lost one, you can just use another one. But honestly, if you're not planning on upgrading the spring much, even 3 or just 2 right here would be fine. Alright, take this out. We're going to install the spacer in here later. Let's keep this at the side. So now looking down there, you can also see the part of the AR that we want to get out. And yes, so now from here, what I like to do, and I'm going to mute the video for this so you guys don't run crazy. I'll take this, I'll put this down here. I'm going to put this on the table and I'm going to hit it with a hammer from the top. In order to break those pistons, like the ones down there, just to break them so I can pull this out. You know, depending on how used to this you are, it might take a couple of tries. I'm going to put this over here because that's a solid table right there. When you do this, when you hold this, like when you set this on the table, be aware, don't hold it like that, because then you will pinch your skin right into here. Just sort of hold this and hold the tube further up so you're not pinching your skin around here. Learn from my mistakes, people. Alright. There we go. That was all that took. So now that is loose. It's kind of all broken and smashed. Taking the pair of pliers to pull out that thing. Come on, there we go. So we got this, and as it always is, like everything else is sort of just jammed in there. And you can see from here as well, it's sort of just jammed in there. And that's where this part comes in handy. I'm gonna just chuck this away. So what I do now is very, very carefully, I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna try and break the gray piece down there. It's a round piece that can't come out this way or this way because it's too big for that, and it's too big for that as well. So, you know, I'm just going to try and break this, and might do this off camera depending on how long that'll take me. Be careful when you do this. If you hit this too hard, you're going to poke a hole through the back or through the side. So, you know, just gentle, and Alright, so as you can see now, I have broken it to pieces. Let's see how much we can get out. There you go. There's one part. Just jimmy that in there a little bit. And that's why I like to take this out, because now I can go through here and try to get this out. And so now you can see the part that holds the spring of the air restrictor is still intact. I like to break this off by just going just behind the round piece right there, and then just breaking that apart. And this one you want to do really carefully, because if you're hitting this way, you quite easily break this. So, alright, now it's just the joy of wiggling stuff out of there. There we go. There's one. Come on. Done. Alright, see, now we got all the pieces out, and that's it. So the rest that's still in there, you don't have to bother, because it's in the back here. It's actually the pins for this one. And if you're not sure, you can look through here. You can see there's nothing in the way of the airflow. So that was that part. And depending on what you want to do, I want to paint this next, so I'm going to install this again, so that I don't lose any screws. And yeah, so that was that part. There's one more thing that I like to do when you prepare your BigShock. This one here, I know I have a cutout in the 3D printed file for this. However, this still sometimes causes trouble, so just that one right there, which is why I just like to take it straight off. That one there, done. And yeah, I don't even know what that's for. Alright, so that's that piece done. Now we're going to go and prepare the shell for cutting. So the lines for the shell, what you want to have is from that top here, like see this plastic part right there. So the top here, not that part here, this line goes back there and forward. That's kind of where you want to be. Depending on how you want to cut it, originally Tim suggested that we cut it here and there, so just around this part, which leaves it with a little bit of a gap here, which I don't like. I like to have this part in the front, so you can just extend this to about here and then cut down here. This one will be easy to know, because on the inside you have that ridge right here, and you just cut right behind there, right there, and you go straight all the way back to about here to right there. So I actually cut on that ridge right here, and I'm gonna put the camera over there and probably mute the sound so you don't get annoyed by the Dremel. But that's kind of the cuts that I'm making. If you want, I suggest if you do this for the first time, you either cut it a bit further and then trim it down, or you use a piece of tape, just about like so, and put it along that ridge right there, because that will give you an idea of the line that you need to cut. Right, so just make sure that's perfectly aligned. I don't actually use this tape anymore because I find it annoying, and I just hope and trust myself that, you know, I've done this numerous times, as you can sort of see over there. Yeah, all right, let's move to the Dremel station. All right, so over here with the Dremel, like, this is the cutting blade. That is a sanding tool to file it down. What I will do is I will put the camera on a different angle, because I know you kind of want to see from the top, but I also kind of want to see from the top to see where I am. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that ridge. As I said, I'm going to cut backwards and forwards, and I'm going to flip it over and cut it on the inside, and then make those cuts, and then just do the fine trim. And yeah, let's go. One thing you want to make sure is that you don't screw up the bottom bit here, because that's the piece you're going to keep. If you get scratches up the top, it doesn't matter, because you know we're going to get rid of the top. And you can see I didn't go all the way. I just kind of use that line to sort of make the corner. All right, inside. Right, so could make that a little bit cleaner, but there we go. This is what you should end up with. That can go away. And what I like to do is, as I said, I like to leave this longer here. I'm going to cut off this edge right there, and I'm going to smoothen this down a little bit, and that actually needs to be a proper corner. Now that's also done, and now it comes just to sort of sanding it smooth. I'd like to do this. If you do this just nice and easy, you're not getting too many scratches on this bit here, which means, like, even if you're not going to paint it, you can still use it. But I know that this still needs cleanup. I could do this with a file, actually. This is the first time I'm using a file just for the sake of this video. Normally I'm just too lazy and use the Dremel. Right, I feel, if you're not sure, you know, just go and test. See, like, take a 3D printer part, test this, see if that fits. You'll see, like, this is not gonna want to fit under the 3D printed part just so well. So I think I might need to take off a little more right there. Yep. All right, cool. That's it. And now I just quickly do the other part, and then we're good. Alright, so when you're done, that's what you should end up with. Depending on how you want to do these cuts, like I've seen someone else just doing like a diagonal cut right here to kind of have like a bit of a pointy end. I like it like this. You could also cut it here or cut it there. Yeah, but these are the cuts that you need to do. And so this, as well as this, are now prepared. And so we're going to go on with the installation of the printed parts after I've put some paint on this one. Alright everybody, here we are with the second half of the assembly. As you can see laid out here, all the 3D printed parts, the hardware and everything needed to complete the Traveller build. As you can see, I've painted this as I said I would. This is Montana Gold and the color is called Graphite. And it goes really nicely with anything sort of black. And don't worry about these black parts. This kit is for my friend Tiago in Portugal, and it's going to be a prop, so he's going to do some serious weathering and everything to this. This is going to look really cool. I'm just going to do the initial build. But yes, let's get started with this. As you know, the Traveller kit is built on Tim's single shot BigShock mod, so most of the things that you know about installing this kit will also apply to installing this kit. So if you've ordered one of these kits through my web shop, or if you have printed one yourself and want to know how to assemble this, I'm going to point out the things that are similar. And we're building a 6-shot inline clip in this black kit, but it also applies for the 4-shot variant that I have here. I'm also going to point out the differences as we go. Now, apart from the BigShock and the parts that we've prepared earlier, you need all the 3D printed parts. So what you can see here, the 2 shell parts, the inner barrel, the grip, the bottom rail, because he only wanted the bottom rail on this. Optionally, there would be a top rail. The nameplate, if you want one, the rear sight, and this is the 4-dart silencer front part, and this is the 6-dart silencer front part. And that is the clip barrel that goes into here. These are all the parts. The screws here are the original shell screws from the BigShock, and this is the hardware that comes with the kit. So it's a bunch of M3 screws, 2 of the M2, and 3 O-rings. Depending on which kit you need, you might only have 2 O-rings, and I'll point out where they all go in the build. The tools you need are fairly simple. There's a standard size screwdriver and an Allen key screwdriver for these screws. There's 2 cotton butts to get rid of the glue residue, and I'll show this to you in a second. I have an X-Acto blade. Use that really careful, for maybe potentially removing some bits and bobs, but I've cleaned up all the parts already, so it's just still here. And last but not least, over here we have a lighter. You'll need that for the grip. There is super glue, just standard super glue, and this is 2-part epoxy. I used a 2-part epoxy for the clip barrel into the silencer. You could use any sort of good plastic glue or adhesive, but I like working with this because I know the curing time of this. In that case, it's 5 minutes, so it gives me a good working time, and that's very nice. And up here is just some O-ring lube, to make the O-ring slide into the barrel easier. All right, that is all the stuff that's on the table. Yeah, let's just sort of get rid of all the things and start the assembly. So we're going to start with the 2 front ends that will then screw into the barrel right here. The main difference between the 2 of them, like the silencer part requires you to glue in the clip barrel into the silencer. The 4-dart variant already has that built in, and reason for that, there's 2 reasons. One is printing. So in all our testing, we noticed that this prints rather well. However, this with this attached doesn't print as well. And also, with different silencers, the ones where you have the see-through slots on the side, you can choose this to be a different color and then have another different look. So that's why we chose to have this a single part. By the way, this gluing in will be the same if you choose the 4-dart variant. So this is not removable, this is solid. And this will be one piece. So the barrel as well as this are already connected and are going to be one piece. Yeah. And so as you can see here, it is a black clip barrel that's also glued into the orange barrel itself. So this will be similar to that. The reason I'm going to start with this is because that is the hardest part of the entire assembly from now on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a 2-part epoxy. You'll notice the chamfer on this, it'll match the chamfer on the inside here. And what you want to do is you want to get some glue all the way around here because you want to create a good air seal. I always have some glue in there as well, which is why this tool comes in handy. Put some glue on the inside here. Make sure to not put any glue on the inside of the actual barrel, so like the narrow portion there. If you do, it's no problem. That's why we have the 2 cotton buds right here, because once we have that in place, I'm going to look down the barrel and I'm going to see if there's any excess glue, and then you can use those to get rid of that. Alright, that's what we're going to do now. Make sure to apply enough glue that this is in there solid and that has a good air seal. So off we go. If you never use 2-part epoxy, it's a really, I really like the 2-part epoxy glue. And just the fact, it's nice and easy to mix. It's 50-50 in this case. That'll depend on the glue that you're using. And yeah. So that'll be roughly 50-50, I think. Maybe not, maybe a little bit more. There we go. And then you just give this a stir. Just make sure it's all mixed nice and easy. And from now on, I do have about 5 minutes of work time with this glue before it starts to become so gooey that you actually can't really work with it anymore. Which is nice, because it means I don't have to do it straight away. I can nice and easily look at the part. I have the print line down here. I always like to align the 2 print lines just to make sure. It's kind of like this. But yeah, it actually doesn't matter. So that's what you want to do. I'm going to get some glue on the inside of this now. Just applying it nice and slow, just over the chamfer, because it will be pressed down by this piece in a second anyways. So a little bit more. There we go. And just slowly work your way around. The important thing of like gluing this piece in here is that you have glue all the way around, because otherwise you run the risk of having an air leak, and you don't want that. And yeah, we're almost done. Apologies for the black parts, by the way. I'm realizing just now that it's really hard to spot the glue on the inside of this. And if I can't see it, you most definitely can't see it. But yeah, working my way around there. There we go. Try not to do what I just done. Try not to get glue in the front here, because you will eventually see that. Good. So, getting rid of the glue on the fingers. So putting the glue onto this bit is something I only advise if you use this type of silencer, because the silencer with the holes on the side, if you then shove in that part with the glue, you will get glue residue visible on the holes, which is not what you want. So if you have the silencer that has the holes on the side, only apply the glue on the inside of this piece. So we are looking fairly good. Let's not overdo it with the glue. Just smoothen this down a little bit, because it doesn't need much. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to insert this. I'm going to put it in place. And where was the seam line? The seam line was there and there. Okay, try to have this straight as I can. Actually, rotating it helps to get the glue all over where you need it to be, and then have it sit down like so. Now when I look into this, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a lot of residue glue that I really need to get out. So let's work this one. So I noticed that I did have a little bit more of an excess glue right there, which is why I'm using yet another one to make sure that I've got everything out. The other thing that you could do, you could use an old dart that you're not going to use anymore, and just use that to clear off all the glue. But yeah, that now does look all right. Okay, so while this is curing over here, as I said, only needs about 5 minutes. We'll just leave it here. We're just going to continue with the rest of the build, which is fairly simple. Now, we're going to prepare the barrel. The barrel, in this case, if you're building the variant that has the screw-in silencers, needs 3 O-rings. This barrel only needs 2, and this barrel only needs 2 as well. So the 2 that all of them have in common go on here. So just slide them over here. Do yourself a favor, try to have that one sit in there straight up, so this one becomes easier to install. There we go. These 2 O-rings will seal the barrel in the barrel of the BigShock. Now, the one that we have for the 6-star variants is actually the one that seals this. So this O-ring needs to go in here, just right in there on the inside. And it is very hard to spot on camera, but when you're holding this piece, you'll notice that there is a little, like a, crevice on the inside there where that needs to sit. So when you start this assembly, you might think, hang on, this is too big, this is not going to quite fit. But it actually will, because there is more space on the inside, it's just about here. And what this will then do, once it's in there, it'll be pushed out to the side by this bit of the silencer, and it'll seal this. Okay, so you're going to put this in there, just like so. And it might want to fall in all the way straight up. It might not. You might want to just need to push this in a little bit. And then now you need to make sure that it'll sit in there nice and round. What I use for this is a pair of tweezers or a pair of pliers if you want to. You just need to make sure that it sits in there nice and easy. Alright, there you can see it sits right at the bottom of that barrel, so right down here, and that's where it wants to live, and that's where it's going to be. Okay? There we go. Back to the other. So now with that in place, you should feel a little resistance when you push this in, which is normal because we've just put an O-ring there. Let's put this in and then twist, and there we go. And now this is solid. And it's really hard to actually put this in when this is not installed, but once this is installed in the BigShock, it becomes a lot easier. When you look at these printed parts, they have a seam line on the bottom, which, well, I want it to be on the bottom. So I want it to sit in the BigShock like so, which means that you kind of have to pay attention to how you put this in. You want to put this in this orientation. So see how these two point to, let's say, 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock. That's how you want to put this in, because if you put it in like this, you end up with the seam line facing to the side. You want to put it in like that. Don't worry, this will be very easy to be manipulated once it's installed. That's where we're using the lube. So all you do is put some lubrication around those O-rings so they slide in nice and easy, and they still seal perfectly. Just like that. And then, yes, I said pay attention. So this is at 1 and 7, and you insert this. Should have a little bit of resistance, but it should slide in there nice and easy. And so if you end up, having misplaced it, you can still turn this if you need to. And there we go. Let's move on to the shells. There is, in fact, 3 different variants of the Traveller, but there's only 2 different variants of the shell. So the standard shell is either like this with no bottom rail, or like this with a bottom rail. The top rail is optional. You can install this to any shell, and that is because the holes for the top rail are already in place. So you can see here, the holes here are the holes for the top rail, but from the top, they are closed. But you can see, if you're in the light, you can sort of see where they are. And this makes it fairly easy. If you want to install the top rail, all you got to do is take a screwdriver or take a knife, but be really careful, and then just sort of put it in the middle here and just push and twist a little bit, because that's only a couple of layers of print, and then you're going to get the 2 holes on each side. So you end up with 4 holes up the top that will then hold the top rail. For this build, we're not going to install the top rail, which is why I didn't drill those holes through. And again, because we're using M3 screws to attach the rails as well, if you use a screwdriver, that's actually nice and easy because you're only going to be doing a pointy sort of thing, and then the screw will cut its way into the plastic. If you use a drill bit, please make sure to use like the max drill bit I use is 2.5. Don't use a 3mm drill bit, because if you use a 3mm drill bit, the screws will obviously not have anything to hold on to, and then your rails will fall off. Right, let's go do this. This is fairly simple. You can see how this is now going to rest in here, just like that. And then the second half is going to go on top, just like so. And now comes the moment where you can see, like, look at everything. In case, you know, it doesn't fit all the way, there might be some leftover support material on the inside, but normally it should just fit on there nice and snug. So it might need a little bit of a push, but you can see, like, this is all good. So now this is fairly straightforward. We have 3 M3x10 and 2 M3x8. The M3x8 go in the bottom, the M3x10 go in the top. I would suggest you just use one up here to start off. And just screw them in like so. Remember, you're screwing into plastic, so the moment this, you know, catches all the way, don't over tighten it. And now I'm going to use one of the small ones down here. Same idea. There we go. Pull this close, and then you see this is how it goes. Second of the small ones down here. And then we're going to use the last 2 at the top. 1, 2. Nope. Brilliant. I am a genius. Right. So this is what you're looking at. And up until this point, it is the same for the shell installation of all of these. So now, if you were to pick the 4-dot variant, you already have the front piece here. If you have the screw-in silencer version, now what you got to do is, well, what you want to do is put this in place and twist, and there you go. And as I said, seam line is now aligning at the bottom as you want it, and it's all looking really clean. I'll take this out. If you have this one, now comes the point where you glue in the muzzle piece, the front piece, into the barrel. And don't worry, you can still get this apart, and you could technically glue this in before you put this together, but I like to do it this way just so I can make sure that this is all aligned nice and flat. So what I like to do now is I like to continue with this part. So we're putting the original BigShock shell back in place. When I painted this, I put some tape here that I'm now going to remove, and this is because that grip piece will be glued onto here, and I don't like to glue onto the paint, so I like to have the glue onto the plastic. This is why I do this. I'm not sure if it's necessary, but now you know. Before we put the BigShock grip back onto place, now it's time to do any last minute changes to the performance of your Traveller kit or to your BigShock. What I totally forgot to mention at the start, because they weren't on the table, this is a spring spacer for the stock spring or any other spring that you use, but it's designed to work with the stock spring. And we're going to put it into the plunger head now. And I totally forgot this, so my apologies. It's always the same. You set up for a video and you're missing a little part, and you notice halfway through. These two go in there now. So what we need to do is we're going to open this here and quickly install this. Whoops, stay here. Right, so you take this out. So where they go in the bottom here. So what you want to do, so put this on the side so you can see. So you're going to pull this back, pull back the spring kind of like you're holding a syringe, like so. And then you have 2 pieces. They go onto there like so, and just slide in. And the other one on the other side, and slide in there. Don't worry if they don't go all the way down, the spring will take care of that. And now that spring spacer is installed. And yeah, it just gives, you know, a little bit more compression on the spring. While we have this open, we can re-loop the inside of that plunger. Just put some lube all the way around. Oops, sorry, I just hit the microphone. In case if you haven't heard. So that's actually all the modification I do to the BigShock personally in terms of performance. Just relubing the inside and putting in that spacer. Now press the trigger so this can go past. Goes all the way in there. And reattach the bottom bit. So there we go. Now we've got this installed. Now it's time to put the shell back on. So this then just sits on there, just like that. And if we've done the cuts and everything correctly, this should just fit in place. And as you can see now, this is where the lines come together. I quite like it that way. And now you can see if you need to sort of sand down a little bit more, as I said earlier, this part here, like on the inside, might need some more sanding. And I feel like definitely does on this part. So I'm going to quickly sand down a little bit more here. All right, so I've just done a little bit more sanding to the parts of the shells, and now they fit nice and snug. And yeah, taking the original shell screw, so the small one goes in here, and then there's 3 more. So we're going to have some leftovers. And yeah. Right, so that is the grip set up. Almost, because we're going to install this portion of the grip. And so the way this works, you can see here on the top it has some small indents for these pieces here. Like if you just push this in like so, it'll be a very tight fit. What you want to do, that's why you have the lighter. You're going to use a lighter to heat up these areas of the print, not burn them, just heat them up. And then push this in once so that actually those form perfectly around these gaps, these circles right here. And then I'll take this out again, then I apply some glue, and then I put it in permanently. So, just using the lighter, not burning the print, but heating it up. Just like that. And now coming in like so, pushing that all the way onto there. So, just like that. You can see it bent itself just a little bit around these edges. And then you take it back out. So you have deformed this a little more. And now all you got to do on this front portion here, just apply some super glue on both sides and then put this in place. There we go. And from the top, put it in like so. And remember to push it in all the way, since we're using super glue. You know, you don't want to have the grip stuck out a little bit, because you know then it will be uncomfortable down the bottom here. But that's it. So this is what we're looking at, and I'm just hold this for a little while longer to make sure the super glue just holds and grabs onto this. All right, time to put on the rails. We only have the bottom rail for this build, as I said earlier, but if you have the top rail, now would be the time to, you know, align the top rail here and then poke these holes through and screw that in place. We're only going to do the bottom rail for this build, so these ones just drop through here and then align them with the holes underneath. And I recommend, I know you can't see what I'm doing, so I recommend what you're doing, like the first screw, don't screw that all the way. You want to make sure that the alignment of the rest is correct. So I'm using the one diagonal up the front. And to screw this in place, like so. And once that catches, you pretty much are perfectly aligned. So you can then put this down and that one as well. In theory that'll be enough, but you know, we like to do things symmetrical. That's why you have 4 screws in there, not 2. And the other one right there. There you go. That is the bottom rail installed for you. Alright, we're in the final stretch of the assembly. Last thing for this build that we have to do, last 2 things, is the rear sight that goes in between here. It attaches with these two M2 by 5mm motor screws, so make sure to not lose them. And see, I like to do that, kind of hold it like this. And then I set this up the top here. You put this in the hole, and then this should just grab. There we go. And you know, don't over tighten. It's not a load bearing piece. It just needs to hold itself. And there we go. Now that's in place. Nice and easy. You know, aligning the side profile like so. Fairly cool. And so even if you have the top rail, this bit will be in the kit. So you can see here, like even if we have the top rail, this bit is here. There's a reason why the top rail is like has a gap in the middle, so you can still use the side profile. And it's up to you if you want to install it or not. But I just think it looks cleaner this way. And yeah. So with this, we are now done. We have some leftover screws. The last thing that you do is, if you choose to have a nameplate, the nameplate goes here. All you got to do is have some super glue, put it on down here, and then make sure you align this in here. I'm going to leave this for now because this is a gift. I don't know if he wants it there or not. So there we go. I just went and got some darts because we are now ready with this kit. You can use this one, or with this one, the glue should be perfectly dry by now. Let's see. Have an old dart. Yep, perfect. So, you know, let's put this in there just to see that it works. Got the seam line here. Align it so it's going to be facing down. Push it in and rotate. And now it's securely installed in the front. Actually really like this silencer. And then same thing for the 4-dart variant. Find a seam line, put it on the downside, push in and rotate, and it's perfectly aligned. Now, in this case, we're going to add 4 darts to our inline clip. We should push it in the last one nice and tight. And now we got 1, you know, give it a little shake. Got 2, whoops, give it a little shake. Got 3, and they're jumping everywhere. And the last one, there we go. 4 shots, nice and clean. And where's the other dart? Here. Alright, so that was it for the assembly. We have now successfully built a Traveller 4-shot, 6-shot variant with the screw-in barrel. And I hope, you know, you guys can then go use this tutorial and build your own. Alright, so this is the end of the video. I really hope this tutorial was helpful for you and you got all the questions answered about how to install the Traveller kit and how this works. If you still have any questions, as I said, fire away in the comments or send me an email, get in touch. I'm happy to help. And if you want to get your hands on one of the Traveller kits yourself, link to my shop is in the description. You can go check it out. There's an entire, you know, selection of different silencers and different styles that you can choose from. So I'm looking forward to see you there. And as always, at the end of the video, while you're still here, you know, consider subscribing to the channel if you're not already. You know, hit the like and the notification bell, and then check out the social media and do the same thing all the way over there. Really helps me out a ton. Thank you guys very much for watching. Until I see you next time, happy modding, happy nerfing, love and sunshine.